glad to be able to shed some light even more on the issue of human trafficking and how we as Jamaicans, how myself as a Jamaican woman is tackling the issue. I first learned about the issue of human trafficking because I read an article in a magazine that I was one of the writers for. It was a Christian-based online magazine and mostly from the Australian side. So I got to see and read news about what's going on that side of the world. And one of my co-writers spoke about an issue about sex tourism in Southeast Asia and was challenging the country as a whole to look more into the issue. So curious. I want to clarify something for you listeners. Prostitution isn't in and of itself human trafficking or sex trafficking, which is under human trafficking. What can happen is that sex trafficking then funnels or provides women into the prostitution ring. So I force, kidnap, coerce a woman, whether because I'm in a romantic relationship with her or they're my child, or I trick her and pick her from somewhere, because she's vulnerable, and then I funnel her into prostitution. But there are women who are in prostitution who, I use the word in quotes, choose the lifestyle. But if you look at some of the research, many of the persons who are in prostitution, a high number of them have experienced some kind of childhood abuse, sexual abuse more than likely, and end up unfortunately through life issues and decisions in a lifestyle of prostitution. But I just want to clarify for your viewers, not because a person is a prostitute have they necessarily been trafficked, but it could be that they were trafficked into prostitution. It feeds prostitution, pornography, and other things like that. The challenges vary as it relates to the women. Many of them don't even know they have been trafficked. Like, I learn about their trafficking stories while working with them. So they are presently, in the lifestyle of prostitution. But as I get to know them, I hear how they got into it. And I hear one is 14 and her mother kicked her out and her boyfriend kept her living with him. But she had to have sex with some men to help pay for the bills in the house and keep the house and work the house even at 14. She would never define it as trafficking, There's another young lady who friends promised her that she could come and live with the friend and she's the same age, two teenagers, and the teenager says, come and live with me and my family in the Kingston area. So Kingston for us is the metropolitan, the capital, and they were living in a more country, rural area. And so because, of her home life, which was tumultuous, and her engagement with the government agencies, this opportunity seemed amazing. And so she came to Kingston to live and come back, and she never comes back, And when I met the young lady, as far as she was concerned, the man who was with her was her boyfriend, but that's the man who she went to live with at 16. And began having sex right away with people on the road. But as far as she was, they didn't even know. So when the police come and do raids, they are against the police because they're like, you're coming against me, because they have no idea that they have been victimized. So that's a part of the work. You're thinking awareness for the people who are trying to stop it, but there's also awareness for the victims. Like, what you've been through is exploitation. It's wrong what you've been through. Maybe you're able to move around freely now, but how you got into this, how they have coerced you, and you guys are all psychologists, I believe, and understand how coercion works. So people are not seeing shackles, but they're shackled up here.
Yes.
That teenage girl is shackled up here. These perpetrators use coercion, and it's part of what was heartbreaking for me without knowing all the details of the Diddy case, how coercion works. And so you as a juror, you're not seeing anything shackling Cassidy. She's texting back what seems like affirmation of her involvement. And so you just go, oh, you were complicit, but you don't understand how coercion works. How entangling it is to be coerced by a person who was skilled, my grandma, and come back, and she never comes back.
welcome to day 2 of our discussion, Shedding Light on Human Trafficking. Tonight, Christ and Counseling 2 is teaming up with Let's Talk Real Talk, Dr. Melissa Tolles, and our team, Evangelist Desandra Goodall, Elder Walter Goodall, and perhaps Dr. Clifton Gales. Our discussion on this evening is about human trafficking, something that is taking place all over the world. It is an issue that we don't much talk about within our community, but it's an issue that is something that we need to be discussing so that not only are we educated, but we educate our young people so that they are aware of what's happening even on the games that they play. If you had an opportunity on last night to watch the clip, which Dr. Tolles will talk more about in just a moment, you will see that perpetrator, those,
Perpetrators, we got you.
thank you, perpetrators are trying to even coerce our young people through the games that they play. So this is our panel on this evening, and Dr. Tolles will share with us about the video we had on last evening.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Dr. Allen, for allowing this space and this time for us to have this discussion, because there is so much that is going on around us in our communities, unfortunately, in some families, in our schools, and also in our churches. And we are not having this conversation enough or at all. And so yesterday, we had the opportunity to connect with Stacey Ann Smith, who is the founder and CEO of Pursued International. It is a ministry as well as an organization founded in the heart of Kingston, Jamaica. And she is working with young women and women who unfortunately have been placed in this situation. She's also working with individuals who have been on the streets for any amount of time, and they're really looking for a way out, and they are giving them the opportunity to learn how to maneuver and navigate from that lifestyle. But also they're also working on policies. They're working on getting more connected and getting more resources to the island and to the organization so that they can help more women to become truly free and independent from, unfortunately, their traffickers, from, for lack of better words, their pimps, or, the ones that have claimed them in that regard, as well as the one of the future goals which she shared, and we can also touch on, is ultimately having the resources ready to help the women to become independent, to have a place where they can be safe, to have the training and having the teachings so that they can have a better life, and they can become employable, or they can start their own business. Many of them have creative ideas and talents and gifts. And I shared in that segment that one of the women that I had the privilege, and I do mean privilege. Some people may say, "What do you mean? Oh my gosh, they're on the street," and we'll talk about that. But had the privilege of meeting. She sang from her soul, and when I tell you, I truly believe heaven opened up for a moment and just was embracing her gift in song. You could feel it. And then after that, she shared that she did not want to be in this lifestyle, but she doesn't know how to get out because she's been in it for so long. And so some of them also, unfortunately, if they've been trafficked for several years or even since childhood, some of them they don't know how to read. They don't have any more than a second or third grade reading level. And so that is also part of the reason that they have stayed, or they feel like they can't leave, because they don't know how they would survive being at that literacy level without their controller. And so ultimately with Pursuit International, they have been around for several years now. I believe they're going into their 7th year, and they have made such an impact that they are connected to resources in the police force as well. And I know Stacy has been on several interviews in several locations throughout the island, and she's been able to also teach and give information very similar to what we have here, as far as learning about the signs and learning about how to um, you know, get someone the help they need or support they need, because again, sometimes it's happening right in front of us or around us and we don't even know. So if I don't want to give it all away. Go watch the video and we'll have that posted up, for you. It is on our YouTube channel. It's on my channel. It's on Dr. Allen's channel, as well as I believe on Facebook. So it is going to give you more information, as we have titled this segment Shedding Light on this crisis, because it is a crisis and it is only growing, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Dr. Toles. The light is on. It's
Mhm.
now important for us to understand some of the signs that people may be that may be in front of us that we have not been paying a close attention to. So I'm going to read a couple. I'm going to ask you all to jump in and read a couple as we go down through the signs of human trafficking. 1, an unaccompanied minor at night. A person appearing fearful, anxious, depressed, submissive, tense, or paranoid. A person monitoring or restricting another person's movement and communication device usage.
A person being supplied with drugs to ensure compliance, a person being coerced or coached by another, signs of malnourishment, injuries from beatings, signs of torture, cigarette burns or bruising, wearing a minimal clothing, scantily clad. Yeah. Or multiple young people exiting a vehicle one at a time, displaying above indicators.
Thank you. So we heard some of this in the video. We heard some of this in the conversation that we had with Stacy. She was spot on and she was sharing with us some of these things may be happening and we're just not paying close attention. And so now that we're shedding light on this crisis, we have to start paying attention. It is our
Mhm.
business. It is our business. Our
Mhm.
neighbor is whomever we come in contact with. And so, therefore, as a neighbor, if I see someone in this type of setting, it is imperative and important that I speak up and say something, even if it's mean I have to
Mhm.
call the police. That's why we have police, to protect and to serve. Let the police
Mhm.
do their job. And if nothing is wrong, then nothing is wrong. But at least I did something to hopefully, prevent someone from being human trafficking. Do you all have any comments on this?
Well, I'm really I was really thinking about, I have never heard of so many young people coming up missing. It seems like it's just and not only females, now young males are coming up missing, and it's like they never discover a body. So I'm wondering if they're being taken into human trafficking or something like that, because these are young girls, 12 and 13 years old, and sometimes I've heard that one person will invite you over and then all of a sudden you
Mhm.
just disappear. So it's like, are these young ladies being taken and trafficked somewhere else, maybe even in another city? And then I'm hearing of stories of, if you're at Walmart shopping, how there is men on like walkie-talkies, um, and they follow you out to your car and they're trying to snatch young girls or single women. So it makes me wonder now, is all this, you know, you never find a body, so I'm wondering if they're trafficking.
Yeah, it's I remember the movie Taken,
Hmm.
and I remember watching that for the first time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is horrible. And all of the emotions that went along with it. But it's a movie, right?
Hmm.
But the movies are real.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we do have young people, and Evangelist Goodall, I'm glad you mentioned that it's not just young women, but even our young men, our boys, are being I want to say specifically, probably even now, being preyed upon because of whatever the need or the demands are that are out there for these individuals that are paying for
Mhm.
people to be ultimately slaves for sexual desires and needs. And again, we didn't say this to begin with, but if anyone's viewing this and you have children in the room or young children, we suggest that you put your earbuds in, or if you're okay with them hearing this content because they need to know and they need to learn as well, by all means, feel free. But this has to be discussed. It has to be shared. We can't continue just to ignore that, like you said, children are missing at a high rate, and especially those that feel lost, those that are unfortunately not in a permanent home, if they are in a group home, if they are in the foster care system, children who are often just left up to their own, and they're constantly on devices, and they think they're talking to someone that's their age, or they think they're talking to a friend. um, Kind of along the lines of what you shared, when I was doing intensive outpatient therapy a few years ago, and this was, oh lordy, what was that, maybe 10 years ago. One of my colleagues had a client who was almost trafficked, and it was because her friend invited her over. She was over for several times, several visits. Courting is what I was told it was being called. But that friend's mother was the trafficker. And the friend was already being trafficked by her biological mother. And so she shared with a friend, because over time she came over. They played games, they watched movies, so she was comfortable. Her family was comfortable. And then, unfortunately, she went over for a sleepover and she almost was taken that night.
Wow.
But she was introduced by a friend.
Right.
So it's so sad to hear, and sometimes, we just probably just want to put our head in the sand and pretend like, or la 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 la, I don't hear it, la la la, I don't. But we can't.
No,
Well, let me take that back. We can't.
we
And
can't.
for those that choose to, hey, that's on you. But at the end of the day, now that people are really talking about this even the more, and we're bringing light to this, and I do pray that this continues to go to the uttermost places of the world, because we can no longer say we didn't know. We
No,
can't
and
we,
and
we
that
can't say that anymore.
oh, and that emotion that we're talking about is trust.
Mm-hmm.
Is trust, and we have to teach our young people. Everybody's not your friend.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody doesn't have your best interest at heart. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot put your trust in everybody. I had to tell
Mhm.
some adults today, I don't trust you. I have trust issues. And you obviously don't trust me. So what we're going to do is we're going to meet again tomorrow. Okay? Because it takes time, but you have to understand that one of the behaviors of a trafficker is manipulation.
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
How can I manipulate you? And it's not, I'm going to give you the whole cart tonight. It's
Mhm.
a crumb at a time.
Mhm.
A
Yep.
crumb at a time to build that trust, all
Mhm.
while the goal is to take full advantage of you.
Mhm.
And so when I was growing up, there was a very few people that I was allowed to stay over. Very few people. It's not a good idea to send your kids to everybody's house.
Right.
Mhm.
As a
Especially if
matter
you didn't meet the adults and you don't know who else is in that house.
That's right.
right, right. I think about Evangelist Goodall owns daycare.
Mhm.
And I often wonder if you all ever deal with any of these type of discussions about trust and believing in people and with your parents.
Yes. Yes, we do. We do. And one thing that they can do a background check and they can but really sometimes it's really good to go to a parent whose child has already been here or they're still here to see if there's any concerns or if they've seen anything or if because it's real easy to put on that face, but when there's that, your child has been here. I have a little guy that's been with me for 6 years. When that's a long time. You should, if there's something going on, you should have picked up something, or you know what I'm saying. So I always say, or you can call some of my previous parents. I've been in business 25 years in January, so I'm like, I have references that you can call. I can give you a list of families that have come through here to make you feel comfortable, because you really never know a person just by a background check, or just, you know what I'm saying. So that's what I have done on several occasions, and then I've asked my parents, you guys give me feedback, what you feel, what you think. So
When you do your national training or your state training, do
mhm,
they ever talk about human trafficking? And if
we
so, what do they say?
I've never heard them talk about. In fact, we were in a training, but most of our training is really definitely just on the safety of the children. But still, I would say like your after school programs, I think that would be a good place to, because one thing about these children, they only allow me to have so many. You're going to either have 10 by yourself or 12 with two people. And so this routine, I mean, I don't have a turnover all the time. Most of my family stay. I've had the Rokas that came through, and there was 4 children, and the oldest son, Alex, is 23. He still comes see me. So I've had long-term families, but I think human trafficking would be a very good place to have human trafficking training, would be your after school programs, because those children, I mean, it's always a turnover. So you're going to get new children all the time, and I think those children that they get out of school early or whatever, I think that would be a good time to really train the people that's over the children to be watchful. Because that's what they're saying is some of the children are going over to new, you meet a new friend and you go over there and you trust them. Like you said, they build that trust and will give you a ride home. And sometimes they never make it home. And the parent don't know who gave them a ride home from the after school
Mhm.
program, because our children really do know how, as you were saying, they know how to manipulate. You can
Mhm.
tell your mom that we're going to pick you up they have it all together, and before you know it, they didn't even go with that child. They went with somebody else, and you don't know who it is. So I think that would be a good place to have some training as to for the students and for the instructors that's over those programs.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
what I was thinking is, I know your kids age out. What age are your kids when they age out?
Of childcare,
Yes,
7.
7.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, what I was thinking is some kids, the Stockholm syndrome, where after a person has been um, taken, they actually bond with their
Mm-hmm.
person who has taken them. And I was thinking after they build that trust, they may not even know that, again, that they have been stolen, that they're being manipulated, taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you have young people who acts like this is normal. They have normalized what they have experienced because that's all they do know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
And that and just to also give more context, and again, for those that did not see the previous video, encourage you to watch it, because Stacy also talked about the definition of what trafficking in persons could mean. It's not just necessarily for sexual exploitation, but also for forced labor. And so there is, pretty much it involves using force, using fraud or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sexual act. And it can happen anywhere. It can happen with men, with women, or children. And this is not just a United States issue. This is a worldwide issue, because it's something that we didn't get deep into, but when we talk about the financial gain of
Mhm.
a person, you get a drug, you take the drug's over after it's done what it's done. Then you got to go back and buy more. However, when you have an individual, you have a human being that can produce whatever it is that you're expecting them to produce or work, and they're working for nothing, for free. You told them you're going to give them covering, they're going to have somewhere to sleep, they're going to get food, they're going to take care of your family, come work for us. And individuals go thinking they're going to be able to do just that and have a better life. And okay, I won't have to worry about where to sleep, I won't have to worry about food, I'm going to get work, I'm going to work and get paid, only to get to wherever they are. And they may have covering that might be a shed, they may get
right.
food, may not be much, and they're not getting paid, but they'll hold a story I did read about as well, especially if they have, they come to another country or something like that, they keep their papers so they can't leave. Because if they try to leave, they get locked up. Or they tell them, we know where your family is. So you leave, we're going after your family. So now you have free labor that's producing whatever it is you're trying to produce. Same thing, even as it relates to sexual exploitation. It sounds horrible to say, but you can use a person for sex over and
Yes.
over and over again. And so billions of dollars is in this unfortunate industry, and it is worldwide.
It's called a network.
There you
Mhm.
go.
Yep.
You have traffickers who operate within networks,
Mhm.
collaborating with others to facilitate trafficking operations, including recruiters. That's what we've already talked about.
Mhm.
You talk about the mom who was a recruiter. And then
Mhm.
you have transporters, people who actually take people from one place to the next. And then you have the buyer. I don't
Yeah.
know about you all, but that sounds like slavery to me.
Yes,
That
yes.
sounds like this country in
Uh-huh.
particular was highly involved in human trafficking for many, many years. We got a new name for it, but it's the same
Mhm.
thing.
Right.
It is the same
Mhm.
thing. And so let's go to our discussion.
It's
Upon
funny you said that as we're bringing that up.
Mhm.
human if you go onto the Homeland Security page, that's really what they call it. It says human trafficking is modern day slavery,
Slavery.
which involves the use of force and fraud and
Right.
coercion.
Yeah. So now that we are looking at it from that lens, because we in particular have history, our forefathers have history of slavery.
Mhm.
So it involves all of us. It should light a candle in all of us to be actively trying to combat this human trafficking because
Mhm.
we don't want history to repeat itself.
No.
We want to put an end to it. So, upon reviewing the segment on human trafficking with Stacy Ann Smith, what were your immediate impressions?
Well, I'll go last because I've been involved and worked and have been working with her for a little bit. So I'll go last on this one.
Okay.
Well, my impression was just her sacrifice, her um, having such a passion to help somebody that you don't even know, but they're in a bad situation and they need help. So when I just listened to her saying, God says go, and she went. And that was amazing to me because sometimes we won't even do the simple things. We won't even offer a bottle of water,
Hmm.
So to me, that was a great sacrifice, and the love that she showed, and she sacrificed her own life to go help somebody that needed. And sometimes we only want to help our four and no more. But Christ is looking for us to really be the hands and his feet. And so when you come into the knowledge of these things, we might not can do much, but I always say a little is much when we place it in the master's hand and when we're doing it because he has commanded us to go. And so that was the most impressive thing to me was wow, she just, seen the need and she went after it.
I
Yeah.
was along with that because I was impressed by that too, especially her going to Asia without knowing anybody for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then it
Well, it
ended up being
started.
longer.
Yes,
Yeah, it
yes.
Yeah.
ended up being longer than that. Listen, I'm in the military. I was in the military and I only want to go when the military sent me. So I was really impressed by that. But I felt dumb
Mm,
that I knew very little about this.
mm,
And I felt appreciative that she was so willing to come and to share so much information about human trafficking. And I
mhm,
was impressed by the fact that it started out as a ministry. Now she has a full-blown uh,
mhm,
business.
mhm.
And she not only have a business, but she reaches out to others to create a network, to
Yes.
Yeah.
educate, to get other people involved. And then I was impressed when she said that she had tried to contact a company years ago, I think
Mhm,
2019, maybe,
mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
and she did not hear anything back from them until this year.
Hmm.
She didn't give up.
Did.
Hmm.
She did not give up. She's resourceful. She said, by any means necessary. Sometimes we think I got to have $5 million to get this done. No,
Hmm.
use the pots and the pans and what you
Yep.
have in your own house
It's true.
to get what needs to be done. So I was very impressed with her because she really helped motivate me to do some things that God's calling me to do that I've been kind of sitting back not doing. But
Hmm.
when God calls us
Well.
to do something, we have to get it done. And
Right.
I was so appreciative also about her. She was just so open.
Hmm.
Mhm.
She was
Yeah.
so open. She didn't take herself seriously, but she had the information and she was sharing the information in a way that, for me, I don't know about you, Dr.
Hmm.
Toles, I was just like, I was just absorbing everything that she was saying because it was so impactful.
Hmm. Yeah. So every time that we talk, I get reignited because she is, as I shared, she's a friend for years. We went to school together, so we've known each other since, I guess, the equivalent of kindergarten. And, over the years, I moved to the States after we graduated from sixth grade, and then we kind of hit, touch base here and there, and we lost touch for a while, but then thank God has his timing and, brought us back together. And so having had the opportunity to visit with her a few years ago and walking the streets with her and her team, and even just that, before we went out, she'd sent me a message and said, don't wear this, don't wear that, don't carry this, don't carry that, don't wear anything name brand, be just plain Jane, don't even wear a watch. Like, don't wear if you want to wear studs, sure. Like, she is literally in her team, they're literally in their shirts, their jeans, maybe a skirt, or and some comfy shoes or sneakers just in case something goes down. you know, Everything else is locked up in the car and it's parked at a good little distance just in case. Um, and ultimately, when I tell you they walked in and they walk around, and the girls even know them as soon as they see them coming, and they maybe, like I shared on the our last session, some of them are high, some of them are drunk, some of them probably couldn't even really spell their whole name to you because they're just so overwhelmed. But when they took time to talk with us, and there were some times where some movement started to happen, and we got the signal like, okay, we needed to start to shift, or the cars are driving by and they're honking the horns and they're telling them what they can do and they're showing the body. And I mean, y'all think some of these outfits are outlandish. When I tell you I saw everything the Lord created, I mean everything the Lord created. And it just blows my mind that, yes, that's happening there, but it's happening everywhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
And when I come back and, to even again with our churches and our ministries, nobody's talking about it. What? No, there's very little. Let me not say nobody, because I'm sure there are others out there, and there are some churches that have taken this as their calling, but very little. If any. There's not a sign, there's not a, hey, you need help, there's not a, you know what I mean? You don't
Mhm.
hear about this. And so before I spoke with her and got that opportunity, I felt like you, Dr. Allen. I'm like, how is it I have not known more about this? Granted, I know some just because, again, background and being in the field of therapy, and we had one or two cases here and there, but the depth of it,
Mhm.
I didn't know. So when I hear her talk and I hear, the stories, and I even read online and see different things that she's been doing and the team is doing, I'm like, wow. And to know that she's doing this just with her ladies. When I tell you they work hard and she works, this is full time for her. And we've had that conversation too, of just her being obedient and sacrificing everything. And I'm like, what am I doing? I tell her all the time, and she's like, "No, you're doing enough." I'm like, "No, I'm not." But I am going to make sure that I'm doing the right thing, because my right thing is different than your right thing.
Right.
And so, but to see another person in the faith going after what God told them to do, even when it sounded crazy, looked crazy, even when her mom passed away a few years ago, but her mom was like a second mom to me, and she was also a principal at the school that we eventually, that we graduated from. But the last time I was able to sit with her mom and visit, her mom even told me, I have no idea what she was doing. I told God she needs to just come home. Like, she's praying against it. But then she realized, if if I've trained up my child, I've taught her the word. We went to a Christian school back home, and they drilled, of course, the word into us as well. So we were taught to listen to the voice of God, and we were taught to do what he commanded us to do. So she said, "You know what, God, if this is what you're calling her to do, then so be it. And you just keep her safe." And her dad the same, of course, that's one of his baby girls. And it's like, "You gonna do what? You going where?" She also has a sister that also went into the mission field, went to Europe. So it's like, what is happening here? But now here we are several years later where she's able to talk about this from not just experience, but with passion and with conviction. And so just to read a little bit about, what's on their website, which you can go to Pursued International, which says they aim to provide dignity and hope for women who have been sexually exploited and who have been trafficked for sex. The desire of Pursued is to let our sisters know they are loved, they are valued, and cared for. Of course, all information is kept confidential. Each woman's story is honored, and they work hard to match the needs to, or match the resources to their needs. And that was evident in the time. I only had 2 days with them, but it was evident while I was there. And I really just was blown away, just blown away. So,
Yeah, another thing as you was talking that also impressed me about her, she appears to be a small person
she is,
in stature, but her
she is,
personality and her fire would
let me
just
tell you.
it was huge. It filled the space. And I could tell she was
Uh-huh.
very comfortable in who she is and in her skin and doing the work that she does. Because like you said, you got to walk the streets.
Yep. But I will
Uh,
say, that's why I say we need a part two, because
yes.
she'll probably tell her story. And then I think it's out there on one of her platforms that she does talk about a time that some things happened to her in her past and that she didn't feel as comfortable and she didn't
Mm,
feel as bold. And so that too, it just goes to show that when God calls you, it don't matter what you got going on.
yeah.
But as long
Okay.
as you have a willing yes, he will
Yes.
qualify you.
Yes.
He will put
Yes.
his stamp on you. And
Yeah.
I told her, I said, I feel like I know you have some angels because there is no way
Right.
that you are out here. And it was late, y'all. Like we didn't get out there until about 11 o'clock at night. And we left probably by 12:30, close to 1.
Oh my God.
So it's nothing. It's yeah. I'm biased, as y'all can tell. This is just my friend, but
Absolutely.
the experience itself and their fruit shows the work that they've put in over the years and that she's put in over the years, and her team also. I really hope one day we can even get some of the team members, because some of the women have never experienced any of this, but they felt the call, they felt the need, and they wanted to help to make an impact. And some of them, they may not go in the street because they're just not comfortable, but they'll do the lay work. They'll do the phone calls, they'll do the flyer, they'll do the workshops, things like that. So that also speaks to, it takes a team to do
The
things. You
village.
don't always have to be the one in the forefront. You might like to stay in the background and you don't even want people to know that you exist.
Right.
And that's okay because you're still part of the body that's getting the work done.
Done.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Wow.
I'll
Amen.
shut up now.
Question two. Have you personally encountered anyone who has been trafficked? What prompted your involvement?
I have not. Not that I know of.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just recently got off talk with a family member who shared with me her story. And after the conversation we had last week, it just all the stuff started coming to my mind about
Mhm.
it almost sound like she experienced this, and I wondered had she experienced it. And it also made me think about some younger family members
Mm.
are they currently experiencing? I talked to some families and say, hey, I'm after, having this discussion, it's making me look at some things differently. It's making me say,
Mhm,
okay, you need to really engage and find out what's going on.
mhm,
To make sure that these young people are not being taken advantage of and then have a whole long life of all of the trauma and all of the doubt and all of the fear and all of the shame,
mhm,
all of the guilt that comes with being trafficked and not realizing that this is what's going on, because it's not only a physical thing, but it's an emotional thing. It's a
mhm,
spiritual thing that adds on all this other stuff. So I am actively engaging with these people now to find out what's going on.
mhm.
And much
Yeah.
like we talked about the others, suicide, people feel so, I don't want to, engage in that. No, I need to engage in this conversation. I
Mhm.
need to engage because if nothing else, I may be asking a question that they may not answer today, but in the future they may say, well, now he did ask, and maybe I need to have that
Mhm.
conversation.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I am,
And that,
I am gonna get involved.
yeah, and that's something that Stacy shared as well, that sometimes they don't know that that has happened. They don't know that they were involved in being trafficked or potentially being trafficked. Unfortunately, even just the luring and
Mhm.
the baiting, you
Mhm.
know. I think I shared, and I don't remember because sometimes I've been on different conversations this week. So um I talked about, I had a former student who was being lured and being wooed by someone in another state via a video game,
Mhm.
and almost it was making plans actually to meet this person, and had no clue. Parents had no clue. And something happened that kind of tripped up the plans, and the parents were eventually able to put two and two together and realized, oh my goodness, my child has been talking to a grown person in a whole nother state, and
Yeah.
this is what was about to happen. What? So, situation I've shared with again, another teenager, while we were working with them and while my colleague was working with them. But again, parents didn't know because they were a friend, and they were a trusted friend
Right.
for a period of time. Um, and so I have not had direct personal encounters, but the ones that I have experienced over the years. And we also had a group home that we were working with, and this was a few years ago while I was in Delaware, and we had a group home that we were working with, the agency I was working for, and we had someone that we could not locate for a period of time, and we found out that they were connected with a grown person, where they could, or was it possible that they were going to be trafficked? It's possible, but also we still have, unfortunately, predators out here.
Mhm.
They may
Mhm.
not want to do anything, sell anything, or whatever, but unfortunately, because of things that they believe to be okay, which are not, that is also a factor. And so we just have to be careful, be mindful, be even more vigilant. We have to gain knowledge so that we can gain wisdom, so that we can use wisdom,
Mhm.
for ourselves and even for our children, for our grandchildren, our neighbors, or whoever you care about. And so there are some people that I've come in contact with, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we're talking about this. Okay, well, I mean, my child can go over to such and such child. It's okay." And I'm like, "Are you sure about that?"
Right, right, right.
And it's like, "Oh my goodness, your child's never going to go anywhere." She probably won't, and that's okay.
That's
That's
okay.
okay.
That's
She'll
okay.
be fine. And
She'll
guess
be
what?
fine.
When she does, I'm going with her, or
Right.
I'm going to those locations more than
Right.
Yeah.
once, because I need to see.
Mhm.
Right.
I need to
Right.
scout, and I need to pray and get that
That's right.
discernment. So, okay, Lord, is this a safe place for her to go? Is this a safe person for her to be around? Can I trust them to be, for her to be with them for 5 minutes? If he says no, then it's no.
Right.
I don't care who you are. But, we just have so much that is happening. I was even sitting in a training this week, and they were talking about how the internet even itself, things have evolved. We
Mhm.
went from encyclopedias that you
Right.
got and you had paid
Mhm.
for if you could afford them. And when they went out and they were outdated, you bought another set. And then after that, you bought another set. But then after a while, there was no need for them. Why? Because the internet came out. And even with the internet, you only had one person at a time could be on the computer, and you had to wait for the dial up and the tones and all of that. And then
Mhm.
a few years later, we went from it just being on your computer to now being on your phone. Now it's on whatever device you pick up. You just log in and there you are, you're plugged in. And then now we have AI. And so it's not that things have just appeared. This conversation did not just appear. It should have been happening all along because it's been happening. But
Yeah.
now it's even more intensified and magnified because we have so much access and people have been given so much access on these devices. So I just
No,
really hope people get it.
I appreciate your protection of your child.
Yes.
Some
Absolutely.
people may consider that being overprotective, but you have to be overprotective. But sometimes we
Yes.
bring in predators into our homes, and
Mhm.
sometimes we send our young people into the homes of predators. And so you have to be watchful.
Yeah.
You have to be
Gotta be a watchman.
wise. You have to be protected because that's your responsibility as a parent to
Hmm.
ensure that your child does not, because one little incident will last 50
A lifetime.
Forever.
years.
Mhm.
Forever.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so I appreciate you sharing that. And the next question is, as you all were listening to the video, did you find any biblical figures that relate to this topic?
I know, Dr. Allen, you shared that a few came to mind. And um, honestly, of course, I won't say of course, but the first one that usually comes to mind is the woman at the well. And she wasn't trafficked or anything like that, and she wasn't some people will say, well, she chose that life probably because the Lord, Jesus said, well, yeah, you've had a couple husbands, and the one you're with is not yours either. But I she came to mind because we really don't know the
Story.
full story.
Right.
We really don't know if after, unfortunately, of course, yes, back then, after the first husband, we don't know if he died, if he, uh, you know, left her or,
Mhm.
threw her out because he wanted a new one. Like, we don't know what
Right.
happened. And so the thought came to me because of her, because how many of these individuals that find themselves coming out of prostitution or coming out of human trafficking, um, or coming out of being molested now have a stain internally. And like the woman at the well, we don't know if she just said, forget this. I've been stained, I've been tarnished. She only came when no one else was going to be out. She came at the heat of the day because nobody else would come and draw water at that time. So she didn't have to be bothered with people talking about her or
Mhm.
looking at her a certain way or pointing a finger or walking on the other side of the road because they were going to catch something. And I thought about that because I think of people that come out of this lifestyle or any lifestyle that the church looks at as, oh, that
Mhm.
was the one.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we have to do better.
We
We have to do better in how we work with our individuals, young, old, in between, when they are coming out of lifestyles, because we can be the ones that can break them because we're supposed to be a safe place. And sometimes we're not.
Now,
Absolutely.
and what prompted me to think that is because Stacy shared one of her success stories about a woman who had come out of the lifestyle and
Mhm.
was preparing for marriage, and how they was helping her to reintegrate and to really detain her from that shame. And I thought to myself, well, maybe that is what Mary Magdalene, maybe that's what she experienced, or maybe that is what the woman at the well experienced. We don't know the backstory. We just meet them here in this text right here. But I
Right.
don't know how you ended up there. And so we have to be conscientious, like you said, when people come into our churches, we don't know their backstory. We don't know how they ended up that way. Stacey was saying that parents are sometimes the actual trafficker.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean, that blew me away. You have a
Mhm.
precious child. Not everybody, I didn't get the opportunity to father a child. So the thought of someone taking someone that God has given you a gift
Mm-hmm.
and then taking advantage of that innocent gift, that wonderful gift,
Mm-hmm.
and now you have had a negative impact on this person's life.
Yeah.
And so as a believer, as a pastor, as a member of clergy, as a member of the body of Christ, I have to interact with people without any judgment
Mhm.
because I don't know your backstory until
Mhm.
you tell me. And even when you share your backstory with me, I have to be able to sit there and listen and show empathy and let you know what you were, you're not today.
Yes.
Because we all had a label. Every last one of us had a
Mhm.
label. If you never did anything, but the Bible said we all was born in sin and shaped into iniquity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the label was a sinner. But
Mm-hmm.
thanks be unto God, we've all been saved by grace. And so we have to look at the Bible stories that we have a little differently, also, especially all this information we have now.
Mm-hmm.
But all this information we have now, we have to put meat on the bones of the biblical characters that we're reading. We got to put some emotions. We got to put some thought. We got to put some community. We got to put some real life to the
Mm-hmm.
members that they're not just stories. They're not one dimensional. These are three-dimensional individuals who lived at one time in a world that is ugly,
Yes.
in a world that takes advantage of people, in a world where people are hurt. Hurt people.
Right.
And manipulators and traffickers are charismatic people who know how to come in and take advantage of you. And so we have to be able to really be that example of Christ,
Mm-hmm.
where we welcome people into our churches and we say, oh, here's another Mary Magdalene.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another woman at the well. How can I meet her needs as Christ met their needs
Yes. Yes.
without judgment,
Mhm.
without shame, without turning them away, but embracing them in their full stories?
Mm-hmm. But also, you know, because some people will say, well, you're supposed to love everybody no matter what. And yes, we are called to love you as God loves you. However, if there is a situation that is present, or there is a situation that has, because of choices, because like we talked about, everybody needs a background check because you're not going to work with children. And unfortunately, there may be things there, or there are things that you still need work on.
Mhm.
We're not going to put you with the kids if you have
Right.
something on your record. That means
Right.
we need to have you work in a different area.
Mhm.
That, because then that would also be irresponsible.
That's
Right.
right.
That's
That's
And
right.
right.
that
Right.
puts that individual in a space that they should not be in, and that puts, the children in a space that they should not be in. And then you're gonna have parents, and because if they find out, then you really gonna have all of hell break loose in that place.
That's true.
So sometimes, we get, I feel like we, the body of Christ, get attacked that we're being judgmental, and we're not, we're not doing what we're preaching when we do bring correction, because there are things that you still have to bring correction and order.
Absolutely.
We still have to make sure that we are protecting those that potentially could get harm or hurt. And so I think that sometimes is why the church shies away from what I've been seeing and researching, and even just the more, and even praying, because honestly, when I got into the field of psychology, I'm like, okay, God, you have to help me navigate in some of this, because now I'm seeing people in a different way. Now I'm seeing them, like we talked about in one of our segments we did a few weeks ago. It's not what they did, but who are they? Why do they do what they do? What happened to them? What is their story?
Mhm.
Where did something kind of probably went left instead of going right, or went, who had that influence, or maybe even in the DNA, there's some stuff there. And so now I'm looking at people through different lens and different eyes than sometimes others in church, because all I've heard in some places is just, oh, it's a demon. You got to cast it out. Oh, it's this. You just got to pray. Oh, the child is hooked on drugs. Just pray, and it's going to work. God's going to work it out. And honestly, I felt so much conflict. And even as Stacy was sharing about some of the things that she's been dealing with and her team has been working with, and the conflict that sometimes others may probably be looking and saying, like, well, how could you even do this? How can you work with these individuals? And it's like, wait a minute. But yes, God loves them too. God made them. He wants them saved, he wants them whole, he wants them filled, he wants them free, but he also needs them to be whole and pure. And sometimes it means going through the detox. It means going through a program. It means spending some time in jail, because there's still consequences for
Absolutely.
actions. And
Yes.
and when we bring that up, it's like, oh, y'all being judgmental. No. There's two sides of the coin here. So some things like this sometimes just bring so many more questions. And sometimes I really do just have to sit and I'm like, okay, Lord, what is it? What do we do with this? How do we approach it? How do we approach even our leaders? And we talked about this before as well in our last few segments when we looked at all the biblical characters. How do we talk to leaders about them getting help and support? Because there's so much that they carry,
Mhm.
pastors and elders, deacons, or whatever the title is, especially pastors and the family of a pastor. They get so much flack and so many things coming at them. How do we help them before they give up? I shared even with my pastor today. I saw someone that I knew who was in ministry, and they put a post that they're burning their ministerial license and they're done. Like, whoa, wait, how did we get to that point? And I'm sure there's a lot that got them to that point because they've been in ministry for years. But kind of to go back to even, how do we then help those that seem to have it all together?
Mm.
How do we touch those individuals still as the body? And how do we still encourage the body not to crucify these people
Right.
if something happens or when they do something that, we would consider not to be leadership-esque? You know? But see the rabbit hole. I could go down
Well,
and go from
well,
one to another.
I would like to say though, on that, one thing we have to mature as the body of Christ, that we are our pastors are still human beings with the same emotions, the same feelings, and everything that we have. And I think sometimes what happens is they allow the people to put them up higher. The Bible says not to think yourself more highly
Highly
as
than
you
you are.
ought to.
Mhm.
And so I think they carry that because they allow the people to make them just like Jesus almost. And really, I think we have to understand we need to pray for them. They have the same temptations that even though he's the leader, he's still in a fleshly body. And so there is room for error when we're in this fleshly body. I mean, it's just a thin line between good and evil.
Right.
And when we really learn that they carry a whole lot, but then there is a time that I think they have to take full responsibility for their own health and their own mental health. And sometimes Jesus even told the disciples, let's go to the other side. Sometimes you got to know when you can't. Listen, I don't care who judge me. If I need to go to the other side, that's what I'm going to do so I can come back refreshed and I can come back. But I think what happens is they feel so obligated or they don't want to share in this task. If we go back to the Old Testament, even Jethro had to tell Moses, this work is too big. You need to appoint you some men. We need to learn that this ministry work, whether you're a pastor or an evangelist, sometimes my plate get full with phone
Mhm.
calls and people sick. And I this week, a week, I had one lady, this all happened in 1 week. I was talking to her. Her son got sentenced to prison for 10 years. The
Mhm.
other son confessed that he was molested.
Mhm.
And I said, girl, I said, and I bawled for her
Mhm.
carrying all of this in 1 week
Mhm.
because and so I'm just an evangelist, but she was comfortable enough to come to me instead of going to the pastor. So I think sometimes too we need to know other people can pray, other people
Mhm.
can have wisdom, has, and they can, and we don't always have to take everything to the pastor, because I believe if you fast and if you pray, God
Mhm.
can give you power to bind the enemy in your life,
Yes.
or but so many times, so I don't know what it is about us, we think the pastor is the only one that can get a prayer through, and that's not true. So
Mm-mm.
I think they need to learn to say, I'm going to take a vacation. And I know there's a lot of pastors I know that don't ever take a vacation. They go to a convention, but I'm talking about, no, no, no. You need to go to the other side, spend some time in a fishing pole. I mean, in a boat,
Do
or
nothing.
doing something that you can rest your mind, because we are not exempt. We are not Jesus, but we have to take care. Be responsible for your own health and your own wellness. That's all I'm saying, really. We know you have the responsibility, but don't let the responsibility kill you.
Amen to
Good.
that.
So that leads us to our next question. We are all familiar with the adage, reach one, teach one. In what ways can you engage personally as it pertains to human trafficking?
Well, when we first started, the one thing I thought about with I said our youth department, we do a lot of Bible stories, which is really good, but sometimes we need to teach reality, what's real right now. Like we just talked, you have to watch your friends, your new friends. Uh, you have to watch where you go, watch who you hang out with, watch. I mean, you just have to, we need to really bring this to the forefront, since this is really where we are. When we started, I talked about every time I turn around, even in Wichita, it's a missing young person that was last seen at 4 o'clock, right when school
Mhm.
is out. And it's like, oh my God, Lord, what is happening to these children? And then maybe 11 days later, they all of a sudden comes home. It's
Mhm.
like, what? But I don't know the backstory of it, or where they were, or who they were with, but it was becoming really common. So I thought, wow, maybe in our youth departments, we need to really talk about this subject so they can be aware that
Mhm.
you could very easily fall into something like this and not even know it. It starts out innocent, but before you know it, it's we don't even know where you are. You're just missing, and we haven't seen you in months.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, again, for me, it's the Lord just reminded me that you like to talk, so talk. So hence, let's talk real talk was birthed. And
Mhm.
to go into what, like, Dr. Allen, you said, use what you have, the pots, the pans, the whatever. And I said, God, okay, I will use whatever opportunity you give me to speak about this topic, but also just mental health in and faith. Mental health, mental wellness, and faith, because there's some that are talking, and there are others in some places where it's embraced, but we still have so many where it's not. And we have so many, even again with this topic in particular, where you may hear it once or twice. You may hear it once in a blue moon, on the news, or something may come up, but you're not hearing it enough
Mhm.
or at all. And so any opportunity that I have and have been given, and I had to apologize. I said, I had to tell my friend sorry that I dipped off for a little bit, because I had to get my work done and get that dissertation done. But in reconnecting and having the discussion, it just rekindled again those memories and the desire to help her and help other organizations as well that I've come and connected with. Another one that I mentioned was Zoe Ministries, and they're located in Delaware. And while Stacy is working mostly with adult women and with young ladies if they come along her path, Zoe Ministries is working with teens, and they are also connecting to, or working really hard to change legislation in not only Delaware, but also throughout the US. And so my hope and goal is that we'll be able to connect with them as well. They weren't able to join us last time, but they are very interested, and we're definitely going to get some time with them, because one of the young ladies, and she's in her, I'm sure she won't mind because she's in her early 20s, that works with them. She is in DC often because she is passionate about the legislation getting passed and being utilized, and the politicians getting involved more, and leaders getting involved more from that realm, so we can put a stop and an end. Some people say, well, it's just like, selling drugs. You're never going to close all the cartels. Well, you know what? We just going to continue to do what we can until Jesus comes.
Mm.
So for me, it's just not being afraid to talk about it, and not being hush hush, or only
Right.
having the discussion within my therapy circles, because again, this does come across our path, or in the education system. You mentioned trainings. We do receive trainings. I have seen it more now than I have before. I would say probably within the last maybe 3 years or 4 years, I've seen that it is a requirement every year. It's probably been a requirement for the state of Florida. I've only been here a few years, so but every year that I've been in the education system here, there is a required training for that. So at least in the education system, that is prevalent. I don't know if it's really hitting all areas like the after school programs and things like that, but at least those that work in the school setting, that is happening. So it's just being, again, an educator and not being afraid to talk about it and share the information and share the reason why we need to get involved, especially why the body of Christ needs to get involved. Because when two or three come together, and if we don't know anything else, that's when we say, all right, God, we praying and we coming together and,
Mhm.
bind it up, tear it up, tangle up, all of that. But give us the wisdom of also how to be our brother's keeper, how to be a support. Maybe some will never go to Jamaica, and that's fine, but maybe they can help with resources. Maybe there's some that will never get actively involved in working with someone one on one, but there are communities, there are programs, and maybe just even your support. It could be $1. you
Yeah.
know, it still can be helpful and beneficial. There's another one out here in Florida, and the name is escaping me right now, but it's also a faith-based organization. Zoe Ministries is also a Christian organization as well. Um, but the one out here that's in Tampa, they just had an event a few weeks ago, and they did a formal ball as a fundraiser. So, you may not, again, ever do something tangible, you think, but just maybe attending things like that and helping with resources, that could be your way of helping to save a life. So, what about you, Dr. Allen?
So what I plan on doing is get smart on this whole subject matter because I'm gonna take some classes. I'm going to learn some things. I'm going to continue to talk to people. I've talked to um, a young woman today who actually is a survivor of being trafficked. And so hopefully in the future, we will have some more discussion with her. I am going to take some classes. I'm going to stay connected with Stacy Ann Smith
Mhm.
and see how I can be a support and value for her organization. And so I'm just going to get smart on this whole situation. Okay.
Yeah.
I know we've been going for quite some time. So our last question was, in your experience, does your church handle this issue? What actions have they taken? What is lacking in the church? And what are the ways to engage with the church? I think we've already covered this part. Our churches are lacking, but what we can do is become smart in this, uh, with this information and take it to the church. Maybe on a Puritan night, we're not going to talk about the Beatitudes. We're going to talk about human trafficking.
Mhm.
Let the pastor know, hey, I'm a resource to talk about this because I've taken some classes and I want to be able to share some information, or just do some flyers,
Mhm.
or in the announcement. Put the information in the announcement, and the stuff you can put in announcement are not, that's our contact information, but this information here, the resources.
Mhm.
These are the resources for the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Maybe that could be placed in the announcement. Maybe the science of human trafficking could be placed in the announcement so that people are aware that this is happening. It's not happening just uh, over in Southeast Asia or in Jamaica. It's happening right here under our nose, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, maybe even in our churches. And so, being that resource to let our church leaders know this is an important discussion, an important topic. This is something that we can also do.
Yeah. And even, if while these are national resources, just doing research in your community, in your state, in your area. Again, look, Google, we use it for everything. Talk to Siri, talk to whoever, whatever, and find out what are those local organizations or local programs that help with this, that helps with human trafficking, or that helps with women young men or children, because there's some, again, that just work with different age groups. And so that way you have that as a resource. Uh, for churches, they may be pushback about talking to the children, but talk to the parents first. Have a parent night. Educate your parents. It's almost like you're going back to just pouring into everyone and pouring into the total man, making sure that they're getting all that they need. Giving the word, yes, 100%. We need that. Teach them how to pray. Yes, absolutely. We need that. But if they're starving, are we not going to feed them? If their house burnt down,
Mm.
are we not going to do our best to make sure they have shelter? Even if it's in a hotel for a few days or somebody's house or whatever the case may be. If they're sick, are we not going to encourage them to go to a doctor and make sure their health is in order? This is no different. And we are missing it. And I say we because it includes me too, even with the education and knowledge and everything that is there, sometimes, out of sight, out of mind, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
This isn't something that immediately impacts me. And so for a period, again, like, I would share some stuff. I put some things out there, and I get the newsletters from Pursuit International. So when I see certain things, I'm like, great, they're still going. Awesome. Yay. I have a bag of toiletries sitting in my house that needs to go over there. But unfortunately, just a tidbit too, when things are sent to most places, especially to third world countries, um, sending it in like a carrier package or, as a crate or a barrel or whatever, you have to pay for customs. They also have to pay to clear it. And depending on who's there that day, it may only be $50 that they need to pay. But the person there is trying to make extra money. So they tell them, oh no, you need to pay me 150 in order to get your stuff. So sometimes it's not even worth sending some things because you just don't even know if they're even going to get it. Or they may go through the items first before it's getting picked up. So one of the safer ways for things is, unless you're paying really top dollar to get things over there, or you bring it yourself. So I told Dr. Allen, we all gonna have to make a trip. So I'm recruiting you too, Evangelist. You and hubby, come on. We all going.
Okay.
You pack one suitcase of just the supplies, and then you only need a little thing, it's hot, you'll be fine. Summer wear it all the time, you'll be good.
Okay.
So sometimes even just how we send things to
Mhm.
places is a challenge and can be difficult, just because of the nature of what's going on in some
Yes.
places, and so sometimes, I know at the end of our last video, Dr. Allen asked Stacy how we could be of help and support, and she shared, again, please go and watch it if you have not had the opportunity to do so. But she shared specific resources that they're looking for, and ultimately now they're at a place where they need to really hone in on the business side of the ministry, and they need support in that area. Grants and how to even be better proficient in writing grants. Business savvy minds are welcomed. International connections. How can we ensure that for those that would like to be connected in the US and in other parts of the world, we make sure that things are getting there, but also that we are, for those that probably want the tax write-off or whatever the case may be, how that is done even appropriately. So things that may seem small and insignificant to us, because that's just what we do all the time, is huge there.
Yes.
And there's just help that's needed there and here.
Right.
So,
So, ladies, thank you also very much for showing up this evening and having this very important discussion. We will continue to highlight or shedding light on human trafficking. And so if you are a person who find yourself in that role, please reach out to us. Or if you know someone who is in that role, please reach out to us and use the resources that we have provided on this evening so that we can change the life of an individual who may be human trafficked. It is not God's will for people to be taken advantage of. And so again, thank you all so very much. We will continue to have this conversation. And I will say good night to you all. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless you.